The message came without warning. William Hayes stood in the grand hall of the Galactic Alliance headquarters, his face a mask hiding the shock that rattled through him. Around him, representatives of 37 alien species looked on with expressions ranging from smug satisfaction to genuine regret. "The vote is final," announced Zorthul, the massive insectoid chairman of the Alliance Council. "By a majority of 29 to 8, humanity is hereby expelled from the Galactic Alliance effective immediately." William tried once more. "On what evidence? We have been loyal members for 75 years. We've contributed technology, resources, and helped defend Alliance borders. The evidence has been reviewed in closed session." Zorthul clicked through, his mandibles. "The Council has determined that Earth represents a clear danger to galactic stability." William knew it was a lie. For months, rumors had circulated about human plots to overthrow the Alliance leadership. Despite Earth's government providing complete transparency and access to all military installations, the whispers had grown louder. Now he understood. This had been the plan all along. "And our colonies? Our ships in transit?" William asked, keeping his voice steady. "All human presence must be restricted to your home solar system within 30 standard days," Zorthul announced. "Any human vessels or settlements found outside Sol after that time will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly." William looked around the chamber. The Centauri delegates wouldn't meet his eyes. The Rigelians looked downright pleased. Only the Syrians and a few others showed any sign of discomfort with the proceedings. "This council has made a grave mistake," William said finally. "One day you'll recognize that." As he turned to leave, a draconian representative hissed after him, "Be grateful we allow you to keep your homeworld, ape." 3 days later, William stood in the emergency session of Earth's United Government. The chamber was packed with representatives from every continent and colony. Screens displayed the faces of colonial governors joining remotely. Lisa Carter, Earth's leading xenotechnologist, finished her presentation. "The evidence against us was fabricated. Our analysis shows it originated from the Rigelian and Proximan delegations. They've been planning this for years." President Harris nodded grimly. "The question before us is whether to comply with the Alliance directive." "Comply?" General Scott's voice boomed from the back. "They want to cage us in our own solar system. Our colonies hold 17 billion people. We can't just abandon them." William cleared his throat. All eyes turned to him. "I've spent 12 years as Earth's representative to the Alliance. I know these species, their cultures, their strengths, and I tell you now, if we refuse this directive, they will attack with overwhelming force." Silence fell over the room. "So we surrender?" someone asked. William shook his head. "I didn't say that. I recommend we appear to negotiate while quietly evacuating our most vulnerable colonies. We need time." 2 weeks passed. Diplomatic channels remained open, but the Alliance wouldn't budge. Human ships throughout Alliance space reported being denied docking rights. Human traders found their contracts suddenly canceled. In her lab beneath the Rocky Mountains, Lisa Carter worked day and night. William visited her on a cold April morning. "You look terrible," he said as he entered her cluttered workspace. Lisa didn't look up from her array of alien technology. "Sleep is for people who aren't facing extinction." "That bad?" Lisa finally looked up, pushing strands of graying hair from her face. "The Alliance uses standardized sensor technology across their fleets. I've been studying their detection systems for years, and I think—" She paused, pressing a button on her console. A small probe in the center of her lab simply vanished. William blinked. "Active camouflage?" "No," Lisa smiled thinly. "It's still there. But to Alliance sensors, it doesn't exist. I've found a way to mask our energy signatures, to make our technology essentially invisible to their detection systems." William's mind raced with possibilities. Can it be scaled up? Ships? Stations? Given time and resources, yes. But William, we don't have— The emergency alert cut her off. Their communications devices blared simultaneously. The message was brief and horrible. Alliance warships had appeared in orbit around New Terra, humanity's largest colony with a population of 3 billion. The next 12 hours were chaos. Alliance forces bypassed Earth's diplomatic efforts and launched simultaneous attacks on human colonies across 3 sectors. Initial reports described devastating orbital bombardments. William found himself in the underground war room with President Harris and military leadership. General Scott was grim as he reported, "New Terra has gone dark. Proxima Colony reports heavy casualties. The Mars defensive fleet has engaged the enemy but is outnumbered 6-1. What about evacuation efforts?" William asked. "We've redirected every available ship, but we have transport capacity for maybe 20% of our colonial population. The rest?" The general didn't finish the sentence. President Harris looked aged by decades. "The Alliance gave us 30 days, it's been 16. They never intended to honor that timeline," William said. "This was coordinated. They wanted us divided and unprepared." Lisa entered the room carrying a data tablet. "I have something. It's untested, but..." The building shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. "They're here," General Scott said unnecessarily. 4 hours later, William stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance watching Earth grow smaller on the view screen. Behind them, 57 ships of various sizes formed a ragged convoy, all that could be launched before Alliance forces secured orbital superiority. Lisa approached him, her face drawn with exhaustion. "We have 300,000 people spread across this fleet, plus whatever colonial ships managed to escape, out of a human population of 23 billion. William couldn't process the numbers. The scale of loss was too great. "How many Alliance ships are tracking us?" "None that we can detect," Lisa replied. "My masking technology is working, at least for now. To their sensors, we're just background radiation." Kevin Mitchell, formerly a lieutenant colonel in Earth's Defense Force, joined them at the viewport. "We've received encoded transmissions from other human vessels that escaped. Perhaps another 1,000,000 survivors scattered across 50 locations. We need a rendezvous point," William said. "Somewhere the Alliance wouldn't think to look." "The Harrow Nebula," Lisa suggested. "Dense gas clouds, unpredictable magnetic fields. Alliance navigation systems can't map it effectively, but I've been studying it for years." William nodded slowly. "Have any ships enter using only manual navigation? Tell them to leave no trace." "What then?" Kevin asked. "We can't hide forever." William looked back at the view screen. Earth was now just a bright blue dot among countless stars, the planet that had birthed humanity, now under alien occupation. "We were too trusting, too open," William said quietly. "We showed them everything we were, everything we had. That ends today." He turned to face Lisa and Kevin. "They cast us out and tried to exterminate us because they feared what we might become. So now we will become what they feared most." "How?" Lisa asked. "We vanish completely. We build in secret, we learn their weaknesses, and one day when they've forgotten to fear us, we'll return from the shadows they forced us into." Kevin's expression hardened with resolve. "They should have killed us all when they had the chance." "Spread the word to every surviving human ship," William said. "As of today, humanity does not exist in the eyes of the galaxy. We are ghosts. We are shadows. And from the darkness, we will build an empire they can't imagine." 1 year passed in the swirling gases of the Harrow Nebula. The human fleet had grown to nearly 300 vessels as stragglers continued to find their way to the hidden sanctuary. They called their makeshift base Haven, a sprawling collection of ships and hastily constructed habitats anchored to a small rocky planetoid deep within the nebula's concealing clouds. William Hayes stood in the observation deck of what had once been a luxury liner, now repurposed as Haven's command center. Through the viewport, he watched as small craft moved between larger vessels, carrying supplies and personnel. Everyone had a job. Everyone worked tirelessly. Survival demanded nothing less. Lisa Carter entered, looking marginally less exhausted than she had in recent months. "The test was successful," she said without preamble. William turned. The ghost tech works on larger ships? Lisa nodded, allowing herself a small smile. We've modified the cruiser Avalon. According to our simulations, it should be completely invisible to Alliance sensors. And to the naked eye? No. They'd still see us visually. But Alliance space is vast and their patrols rely on sensor sweeps. If they can't detect us electronically, the chances of visual contact are extremely low. William nodded slowly. This was the breakthrough they had been waiting for. When can the Avalon depart? 3 days. Kevin's already selecting the crew. Kevin Mitchell had become the de facto military leader of Haven. His strategic mind and steady demeanor made him the obvious choice to organize their limited defensive capabilities. Good, William said. It's time we learned what's happening out there. 3 days later, William, Lisa, and Kevin stood on the bridge of the Avalon as final preparations were made for departure. The ship was a mid-sized cruiser, once part of Earth's defensive fleet. Now it bore no markings, its hull modified to absorb rather than reflect light. Alan Davidson, a former intelligence officer with quiet eyes and a perpetual frown, approached with a data tablet. My team has prepared a list of priority targets for reconnaissance, he said, handing the tablet to Kevin. Former human colonies, Alliance outposts, and trade hubs where we might gather useful intelligence. Kevin scanned the list and nodded. We'll start with the outer territories. Less traffic, fewer patrols. Perfect for testing our invisibility. This isn't just about testing the ghost tech, William reminded them. We need to start building a network. There are species in the Alliance who opposed our expulsion. Some may be willing to help us if approached carefully. Alan's frown deepened. That's extremely risky. One mistake and the Alliance will know we survived in greater numbers than they thought. Which is why we won't reveal ourselves as human, William said. Your operatives will use alien intermediaries, communicate through coded channels. We need information and resources if we're going to survive long-term. 2 months later, the Avalon returned to Haven. Its mission had been more successful than anyone dared hope. The ghost tech had worked flawlessly. Not once had they been detected by Alliance patrols, even when passing within visual range of military vessels. In the main conference room, Kevin and Alan presented their findings to the Leadership Council that had formed among the survivors. The Alliance is telling its citizens that the human problem has been solved, Alan reported. According to their propaganda, we've been confined to our home system, where we can no longer threaten galactic peace. They didn't announce that they bombed our colonies, Nicole Wright said bitterly. Nicole was an engineer who had escaped from Proxima Colony. She had lost her entire family in the attack. No, Alan agreed. That's being kept quiet. But there's more. The Syrians and Centauri have officially protested our treatment. There are demonstrations on some worlds. Not everyone believes the lies about us. William leaned forward. What about Earth? Alan's expression darkened. Occupied. Alliance. Forces control all orbital facilities. Limited communication allowed to and from the surface. Approximately 4 billion humans remain there under strict surveillance. A heavy silence fell over the room. And our technology? Lisa asked finally. Have they started using our innovations? Yes. Alan nodded. But poorly. They don't fully understand what they've stolen. Their attempts to reverse engineer our more advanced systems are clumsy. Nicole snorted. That doesn't surprise me. The Alliance always took our tech without bothering to understand the principles behind it. That gives us an advantage, Kevin noted. If they don't understand what they have, they won't notice when small pieces go missing. William raised an eyebrow. You want to steal back our own technology? Not just ours, Kevin said. The Avalon found 3 abandoned outposts at the edges of Alliance space. Perfectly good equipment just sitting there. The Alliance has overextended itself trying to occupy our former territories. They don't have the manpower to maintain their borders properly. Salvage operations, Nicole said, her eyes lighting up. I could lead teams to recover and repurpose whatever we find. William considered this. It's a start. But we need more than salvage. We need a long-term strategy. I might have one, Lisa said quietly. Everyone turned to her. The Avalon collected data on Alliance detection systems across 20 sectors. There are patterns, vulnerabilities. With more research, we might be able to move freely through their territory without detection. To what end? Someone asked. William stood up, drawing all eyes. To rebuild. Not as we were, but as something new. The Alliance cast us out because they feared what we might become. So we'll become something else entirely. Something invisible. Over the next 6 months, Haven transformed. The ragged collection of refugee ships evolved into an organized base of operations. Nicole Wright led teams that dismantled 3 vessels to construct permanent habitats within the planetoid. Kevin Mitchell trained security forces while Alan Davidson established a rudimentary intelligence network using alien contacts sympathetic to humanity's plight. The Avalon was joined by 2 more ghost ships, the Phantom and the Spectre. They ran regular reconnaissance missions, mapping Alliance patrol routes and identifying targets for salvage operations. William stood with Lisa in Haven's new command center, built deep within the planetoid. Around them, displays showed the status of various projects and missions. We've come far, Lisa said, watching as the latest salvage team returned with components from an abandoned Alliance research station. Not far enough, William replied. We're surviving, but that's all. We need to do more than hide and scavenge. Lisa studied him. What are you thinking? I'm thinking that the Alliance believes they've eliminated the human threat. They think we're safely contained, no longer their problem. William's eyes hardened. Their complacency is our opportunity. We need to start pushing back, but in ways they won't expect or understand. You want to fight? Lisa asked, concerned. William shook his head. No, not directly. That's what they would expect. Instead, we'll build something they can't see until it's too late. An empire in the shadows. An empire built by ghosts, Lisa murmured. Exactly, William said, a rare smile crossing his face. And the first rule of our shadow empire? No one must ever know we exist. 10 years had passed since the expulsion. What began as a desperate band of survivors had evolved into something no one in the Alliance could have imagined. Haven was no longer just a hidden base. It had become the center of an invisible network that stretched across dozens of star systems. Greg Summers walked through the bustling market level of Haven Station. Once a trader on Earth's colonies, he now managed what might be the most unusual business operation in galactic history. He nodded to a pair of Syrian merchants, their blue scales gleaming under the artificial lights. They had no idea they were dealing with humans. To them, Greg was Morden, a mysterious broker who always delivered the highest quality goods through a chain of non-human intermediaries. Greg entered a secure meeting room where William Hayes waited. William's hair had gone completely gray over the past decade, but his eyes remained sharp and determined. The Procyon deal is complete, Greg reported. Our shell company now controls 30% of their manufacturing output. William nodded, with satisfaction. And they have no idea? None. The paperwork shows ownership by a Centauri investment group, which is actually controlled by our Syrian partners, who don't know they're working for us. Greg smiled. It's amazing what people will do for profit without asking too many questions. And the new technology? Greg tapped his datapad, bringing up schematics. Nicole's improvements to their reactor design increased efficiency by 40%. We're selling it through 3 different alien fronts at premium prices. The Alliance military placed a massive order last month. William allowed himself a rare laugh. They're buying our technology to protect themselves from a human threat that doesn't officially exist. Speaking of which, Greg said, his expression growing more serious, Olivia wants to speak with you. She's made contact with the Draconians. William raised an eyebrow. The Draconians? They were among our most vocal opponents in the Alliance. Not all of them, apparently. There's been a political shift. A faction has fallen out of favor with the Alliance leadership. Olivia Bennett had once been a junior diplomat on Earth. Now, She specialized in establishing connections with disaffected species across the galaxy. She had an uncanny ability to find allies in unexpected places. Later that day, Olivia briefed William in his private office. The draconian Eastern Territories have been cut off from alliance support, she explained. Budget constraints, they say, but really it's political. The Eastern clans oppose the alliance's recent military expansion. William considered this. And they've reached out to us? Not to us specifically. They don't know who we are. They reached out to one of our trading partners looking for alternative supply lines. Olivia's eyes gleamed. This is a perfect opportunity. The Draconians have the largest independent shipyards outside Alliance control. Access to those shipyards would solve our biggest limitation, William mused. Human ships were still few in number, despite their advanced stealth technology. Set up the connection, but with maximum security protocols. No direct contact. Always, Olivia assured him. In another section of Haven, Nicole Wright supervised the final testing of a new drive system. At 45, she had become the lead engineer of humanity's Shadow Fleet. Her latest creation was installed in a sleek vessel that bore no resemblance to traditional human designs. Power output is stable at 120% of projected capacity, reported one of her assistants. Nicole nodded, satisfied. The Alliance still hasn't figured out how to properly align the phase converters. Their copies of our old tech are running at 60% efficiency at best. Alan Davidson entered the testing chamber, nodding to Nicole. Once the head of Haven's intelligence operations, Alan now directed a vast network of informants and agents throughout Alliance. Space. None of his field operatives knew they were working for humans. The Alliance Council is holding an emergency session, Alan said without preamble. There's been another attack on their supply lines near the Epsilon sector. Nicole frowned. That's the third this month. Do we know who's responsible? Alan shook his head. Not us, if that's what you're asking. The official report blames pirates, but my sources indicate it might be the Rigelians testing Alliance defenses. The Rigelians? Nicole was surprised. They were the ones who pushed hardest for our expulsion. Times change, Alan said dryly. The Alliance has been struggling economically. Without human innovation driving their markets, several sectors have fallen into recession. Member species are getting restless. Later that evening, the Leadership Council gathered in Haven's secure conference room. William Hayes took his place at the head of the table, with Lisa Carter to his right. Despite being in her 60s now, Lisa continued to refine and improve the ghost technology that kept humanity hidden. We've reached a critical juncture, William began. For 10 years, we've built our strength in secret. We've established trading networks, gathered intelligence, and developed technology beyond what we had before the expulsion. Greg Summers displayed a holographic map showing the extent of human influence. Shell companies, proxy operations, and infiltrated supply chains across hundreds of star systems. 22% of all Alliance trade now passes through businesses we secretly control, Greg reported. They depend on us without knowing we exist. Olivia presented next. We've established relationships with 7 species who have grievances against the Alliance. None know they're dealing with humans, but all are willing to work with our network of proxies. Kevin Mitchell, his hair now gray but his military bearing unchanged, discussed security. Our ghost fleet now numbers 63, ships all with capabilities beyond anything the Alliance possesses. We can move undetected through any sector. William nodded, taking it all in. And Earth? Alan's expression tightened. Still under occupation, but Alliance presence has decreased as they face challenges elsewhere. Our agents report growing resistance, movements in several cities. William stood and walked to the viewport that looked out into the nebula's swirling gases. When we began this journey, our goal was simple survival. We've achieved that and more. Now it's time for the next phase. Which is? Kevin asked. William turned back to face them. To begin actively undermining the Alliance, not through direct confrontation, but by exploiting the fractures already forming in their coalition. A shadow war, Kevin said thoughtfully. Exactly. We'll create situations that force Alliance members to work against each other. Trade disputes, border incidents, mysterious technology failures. William's eyes were hard. They tried to destroy us because they feared our potential. Now we'll show them exactly what they should have feared. Lisa spoke up for the first time. And then what? Revenge? William considered her question carefully. Not just revenge. Justice. Recognition. Eventually we'll reveal ourselves, but only when we're in a position to dictate terms rather than beg for them. Greg leaned forward. You're talking about toppling the entire alliance. No, William said. I'm talking about replacing it with something better. A galactic society where no species can simply vote to exterminate another. Olivia nodded slowly. Building a new order from the shadows. And if they resist? Kevin asked. William's expression was resolute. Then they'll learn why they were right to fear us all along. 25 years after humanity's expulsion, the galaxy had changed in ways the Alliance never anticipated. Their once unified coalition now fractured along old cultural and economic lines. Border disputes erupted regularly. Trade negotiations broke down over minor disagreements. Military budgets strained as member species built up their own fleets rather than contributing to collective defense. None suspected the invisible hand that pushed them toward chaos. Frank Russell, commander of the human ghost fleet, stood on the bridge of the Shadowblade, the most advanced vessel ever built by human hands. Through the view screen he watched as an Alliance patrol passed less than a kilometer away, completely unaware of his presence. Status of the operation? He asked his executive officer. Phase 1 complete, sir, she replied. The shipment has been intercepted. The Rigelians will blame the Procyons as planned. Frank nodded with satisfaction. Set course for rendezvous? Point. We need to be clear of this sector before the fireworks start. In Haven's command center, Diana Peterson monitored incoming intelligence reports. A former psychology professor turned master of political manipulation, Diana had spent 15 years designing Operation Whisper, a systematic campaign to destabilize the Alliance from within. The Rigelian ambassador has formally accused the Procyon Federation of piracy, she informed William Hayes, who stood nearby. Just as we predicted. William, now in his 70s but still sharp-minded, nodded thoughtfully. And the evidence? Our falsified data has been discovered by their investigators. The Procyons are already denying involvement, but the Rigelians won't believe them, because 3 of their ships disappeared last month in Procyon-controlled space, William said. Exactly. Ships that we quietly disabled and relocated to the Shadow Nexus shipyards. The Shadow Nexus had started as a small trading post hidden in an uninhabited system. Over the years, it had grown into humanity's primary center of commerce and manufacturing, a massive station surrounded by shipyards and research facilities. Thousands of aliens worked there, managed by human-controlled shell companies. None of the workers knew their ultimate employers were human. Greg Summers entered the command center looking pleased. Now in his 60s, Greg had transformed from a simple trader into the architect of humanity's shadow economy. The Centauri Trade Guild has officially severed ties with the Syrian Commerce Authority, he reported. Our operatives on both sides helped push them over the edge. What was the final straw, William asked. A shipment of military-grade shield generators that mysteriously disappeared. Both sides blame the other. And since they've been competing for dominance in the sector for years. A perfect trigger point, Diana commented. That makes 3 major Alliance trade relationships we've severed this year. William studied the galactic map displayed on the main view screen. Nearly a third of the Alliance territories now glowed red, indicating areas of conflict or instability. What's the status of the draconian situation? He asked. Diana changed the display. The Eastern Territory continues to move toward full independence. Our support has been subtle but effective. Their military capabilities now rival the draconian central government. And our agents on their ruling council? In position. They believe they're working with independent arms dealers. They have no idea the advanced weaponry we're providing comes from human designers. Later that day, William met with Olivia Bennett in his private office. At 65, Olivia had become the master of building coalitions among Alliance outcasts. The Forgotten Coalition is now officially formed, she reported, referring to the alliance of 7 species who had been marginalized by the larger powers. They've established mutual defense pacts and exclusive trading arrangements, all facilitated by our network, William noted. Yes. They believe they're dealing with various independent brokers and traders. In reality, they're forming exactly the power block we've designed. William leaned back in his chair. How many years before they're strong enough to openly challenge the Alliance? At current growth rates? 5, perhaps 6 years. Sooner if the Alliance continues to weaken. It will, William assured her. Diana's program is working better than we anticipated. The member species are turning against each other faster than even she predicted. The next morning, William visited the research complex where Lisa Carter, now in her late 70s, continued her work. Despite her age, her mind remained brilliant. The latest generation of ghost technology was her crowning achievement. Is it ready? William asked as he entered her laboratory. Lisa looked up from her work and smiled. See for yourself. She pressed a button on her console. A small cube sitting on her workbench began to glow softly. The glow expanded, forming a bubble that quickly encompassed the entire lab. What am I looking at? William asked. Phase shift field. Next generation stealth technology. Lisa's eyes gleamed with pride. The Alliance's sensors can detect our current ghost tech if they know exactly what to look for. This makes that impossible. You found a way to shift our ships partially out of normal space? Not just ships, Lisa corrected. Stations, planets. Given enough power, we could hide entire colonies with this technology. William stared at the glowing field, awed by the implications. This changes everything. I know. We no longer need to hide in nebulas and uncharted systems. We could establish bases right under Alliance noses, and they'd never know. That evening, the Leadership Council met for what William had described as a pivotal strategy session. The original members had aged, but their determination remained undiminished. The Alliance is weakening exactly as we planned, William began. Their unity is fracturing. Their economy is struggling. Their military readiness is at its lowest point in a century. Alan Davidson, his intelligence network now spanning hundreds of systems, displayed the latest reports. 6 member species are considering formal withdrawal from the Alliance. 3 more are in open conflict with each other. Their central government can barely maintain control. Frank Russell described the latest Ghost Fleet operations. We now have 127 vessels, all with stealth capabilities beyond anything the Alliance can detect. We can move freely through any system without fear of discovery. Nicole Wright explained advancements in their technological edge. We're now at least 3 generations ahead of Alliance military tech. Their ships are using drive systems we considered obsolete 15 years ago. Greg Summers outlined their economic dominance. 40% of all galactic trade flows through our shadow networks. We can crash entire planetary economies with a few strategic decisions. Olivia Bennett detailed the growing strength of their allied factions. The Forgotten Coalition will soon be strong enough to openly challenge Alliance authority in the outer regions. Finally, Diana Peterson summarized the political situation. The Alliance Council spent their last 3 sessions arguing about trade disputes rather than addressing the growing rebellions on their border worlds. They're collapsing from within. William listened to it all with quiet satisfaction. When the reports concluded, he stood and addressed the room. 25 years. Ago, the Alliance cast us out, believing they had eliminated the human threat. They sought to confine us, control us, and when that failed, destroy us. His voice remained calm, but his eyes burned with determination. They failed. From the shadows they forced us into, we have built something stronger than they could imagine. He looked around the room, meeting each gaze. The time approaches when we will step from those shadows. not as supplicants begging for readmission to their flawed alliance, but as the architects of a new galactic order. Kevin Mitchell, still the voice of military caution, spoke up. When we reveal ourselves, they will try to unite against us. William smiled grimly. Too late. We've made sure of that, or of. 50 years had passed since humanity's expulsion from the Galactic Alliance. What began as a desperate flight of survivors had become the most powerful hidden force in the galaxy. Now, the day that William Hayes had planned for half a century had finally arrived. William stood in his quarters aboard the Ascendant, humanity's new flagship. At 85, his body had weakened, but his mind remained sharp. He carefully put on his formal uniform, the first time in decades that he would publicly wear clothing that identified him as human. A soft chime announced a visitor. The door slid open to reveal Lisa Carter. Though approaching 90, she still oversaw humanity's research division. "It's time," she said simply. William nodded. "Are you nervous?" Lisa smiled. After 50 years of hiding, terrified, but also ready, they walked together to the Ascendant's bridge where the senior leadership had gathered. Frank Russell, commander of the Ghost Fleet, now 300 ships strong. Diana Peterson, architect of the Alliance's political dissolution. Greg Summers, controller of humanity's vast economic network. Olivia Bennett, who had built a coalition of former Alliance outcasts. Nicole Wright, whose technological innovations had kept humanity decades ahead of their former persecutors. Alan Davidson, master of the intelligence web that spanned every corner of known space. All had aged, but all had lived to see this day. "Status report," William requested as he took his place at the command station. "All ships in position," Frank reported. "Phase shift fields ready for simultaneous deactivation. On your command." "The forgotten coalition forces are standing by," Olivia added. "They'll reveal themselves as our allies the moment we appear." "Earth?" William asked quietly. Alan nodded. "Our ground forces are in position. The occupation government has no idea. What's coming?" "And the Alliance Council?" Diana smiled coldly. "In full emergency session, trying to address the complete collapse of their defensive networks. Which they have no idea we caused," Nicole added with satisfaction. William took a deep breath. "Very well, begin the broadcast on all frequencies, all languages. Across the galaxy, on thousands of planets and stations, communication systems suddenly activated. Regular broadcasts were interrupted as every screen and audio channel carried the same signal. In the Grand Chamber of the Alliance Council, representatives from 28 species argued vehemently among themselves. Once the governing body of a unified galactic power, they had devolved into a fractious, ineffective assembly. Their debates were interrupted as the chamber's main view screen activated. Without warning, William Hayes's face appeared on the screen. None recognized him. The current generation of Alliance leaders had never seen a human in person. "Greetings," William began. "My name is William Hayes. I am human." A shock of recognition ran through the chamber. 50 years ago, this body voted to expel humanity from the Galactic Alliance. You gave us an ultimatum: confine ourselves to our home system or face extermination. When we refused these unjust terms, you attacked our colonies, killed billions of our people, and occupied our homeworld. William's voice remained calm, but his eyes burned with the memory of old wounds. You believed you had solved the human problem. You were wrong. Today, the deception ends. Today, humanity steps out of the shadows. On his signal, Frank Russell gave the command. Across the galaxy, hundreds of human ships simultaneously deactivated their phase shift fields, appearing as if from nowhere in key systems throughout Alliance space. The Ascendant itself decloaked directly above the Alliance capital world, its massive form dwarfing the defensive platforms that surrounded the planet. In the council chamber, displays showed human vessels appearing near every major Alliance world. Panic erupted among the representatives. "This is not an invasion," William continued. "If we wanted war, it would already be over. What you are witnessing is a revelation. Diana activated the second part of the broadcast, a detailed record of humanity's shadow empire, the shell corporations they controlled, the trade routes they dominated, the technologies they had developed, the alliances they had formed. For 50 years, we have lived among you, unseen, William explained. The corporations you depend on, many are ours. The advanced technology you purchase, designed by human engineers. The economic networks that sustain your worlds, built by human strategists. On Earth, hidden resistance fighters emerged from the population, quickly overwhelming the skeleton occupation force that the Alliance had left behind. Similar uprisings occurred on former human colony worlds, coordinated by Alan's intelligence network. Your alliance is already broken, William continued. 7 of your member species have secretly aligned with us, forming what you know as the Forgotten Coalition. Your economy depends on trading networks we control. Your military relies on technology we allow you to have. The council chamber erupted in shouts and accusations as representatives realized the extent of the deception. Some demanded immediate military action, others called for surrender. Most simply stared in shock at the revelation that humans had infiltrated every aspect of their society. We could have destroyed you, William said, his voice cutting through their panic. At any point in the past 20 years, we could have collapsed your economy, disabled your fleets, or turned your member species against each other even more than we already have. He leaned forward, his expression stern but not vengeful. Instead, we offer you a choice. The current alliance structure will be dissolved. In its place, we propose a new galactic federation, one where no species can vote to exterminate another, where technological advancement is shared rather than hoarded, where disputes are resolved through negotiation rather than force. The broadcast showed images of the Forgotten Coalition ships decloaking alongside human vessels. Those who join us will benefit from full access to human innovation, including technologies we've kept hidden for decades. Those who resist will find themselves increasingly isolated in a galaxy that has moved beyond them. In orbit around Earth, the occupation fleet found itself surrounded by human ghost ships that had appeared from nowhere. Their commanders received a simple message: surrender or be destroyed. Throughout Alliance space, human-controlled corporations suddenly closed their doors. Trade routes fell silent. Communication networks operated by human proxies shut down. Within hours, the galaxy's economy ground to a halt. You cast us out because you feared what we might become, William said, addressing the stunned council directly. You were right to be afraid, but for the wrong reasons. You should have feared our ingenuity, our adaptability, our determination, not our aggression. He stood straighter, his voice carrying the weight of 50 years of careful planning. You forced us into the shadows. From those shadows, we built an empire more powerful than you can imagine. Now we step into the light, not as your enemies, but as the architects of a new galactic future. The choice to join us is yours. William ended the transmission. On the bridge of the Ascendant, he finally allowed himself to sit, the emotional weight of the moment catching up to him. Lisa placed a hand on his shoulder. 50 years, she said softly. Was it worth the wait? William looked at the view screen, which showed Alliance vessels everywhere powering down their weapons. Reports were already coming in of planetary governments pledging to join the new Federation. Could have sought revenge, he said. Many wanted to, but we chose to build something better instead. Frank Russell approached. The Alliance flagship is hailing us. Their Grand Admiral is requesting to speak with you personally. William smiled. Tell him the shadows have names and we're ready to talk.